Come craft with me today. We're going to make cute little picture frames using wooden paint stir sticks. Okay, so if you go to any home improvement store that has a paint counter, you should be able to find wooden paint stir sticks to purchase, like in bulk. Like these are packs of 10. I got them at Home Depot for $1.49 a pop, which I think is a really good deal. These are called, okay, they're technically called ruler sticks, but I mean, they're paint stir sticks. They have a ruler surface on one side and then just a plain wooden surface on the other. And the nice thing is, even though they have a ruler printed on them, it's really, really faint. So I'm gonna open this up and show you. I don't even know if you're gonna be able to see it. It's a really gloomy day, so I'm not working with the best lighting. But if it's gloomy, that means rain is coming and then I don't have to water the garden. So I'll take it. So it's like very, very faintly printed on. So this is one that has no printing. And this is one that does. Like you can't even see it. It's like a white ink. It's super, super faint. But you're gonna wanna pay attention and make sure that when you're cutting and staining, you have the unfinished, unprinted side facing up. But for this craft, you're gonna need a pack of 10. So you're gonna use all 10 paint sticks. You're gonna use some wood stain or paint, whatever you want, brushes for that. Some miter, shears, or a saw or whatever to cut these paint sticks, brushes, wood glue, ruler, paper towels. I'm using bricks to hold my surface flat when the wood glue dries, but you can use, I've used a stack of books, that worked fine too. We just have extra papers in the yard from a garden project, so that's what I've got. And then you're gonna wanna have, I think I got a packet of these at the dollar store, but I think you can get them at like Hobby Lobby too. They're just little clothespins, mini clothespins. This is really blurry. There we go. Just a little miniature clothespin to attach your photo to the frame, but you could use like brackets or whatever else you want. I'm just using clothespins because I have them and I think they're cute. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is trim all of your craft sticks down to size. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay all my craft sticks always printed side down. So you're gonna do 8 across, and then 2, so 8 vertical and 2 horizontal to make your frame. So what it's gonna look like is we're gonna trim off, there we go. We're gonna trim off the little handle part and then put 2 pieces across here to make a picture frame. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna do is line these up really, really nicely, because you're gonna wanna do your very best to cut all of these down to the same length. Okay, then you're gonna take your ruler and a pen or a pencil, and yes, you're marking on the front good side, and that's okay. And I'll explain to you that in a second. So you're just gonna take your straight edge and place it like right above where the handle pieces are. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm just gonna press this down and draw a line straight across, and then I'm gonna measure the width for my 2 cross pieces. So I'm just gonna lay these flat. Mark that line as well. So keep in mind, you're gonna have 8 long and 2 shorter pieces. They're not gonna be the exact same length here. All right, then it's time to trim these. So this is, I have this little, it's for cutting trim pieces. So like if you're using, you know, like that plasticky trim like that you use in like bathrooms and stuff that's more waterproof, or for wooden dowels and stuff. But it's not, I guess maybe I don't have the strongest hands. So this is why I do it face up. because when you cut in, you're gonna cut in right inside that line. When you cut in, that's the top side is where you're gonna get the clean surface, and the bottom side is where it's gonna be kind of shredded and not the best. So what I do is I typically just score from both sides, push down, and some snap apart really easily and others are more tricky. It's kind of hard to tell, but this way on the front side you have that perfectly smooth surface. And then on the back, if it's a little jagged, no problem, because that's the back of your project. So I'm just gonna keep going, and you just lay this flat 90-degree cut, and you set the blade just a hair inside that line that you drew, and that way you don't have ink on the front side of your finished project. Score on one side. Score on the other. So this one, it didn't quite make it all the way through, so then I just flip back to the original side. So like I said, some pop apart really easily. Also, there we go. I also just put lotion on my hands this morning, so maybe don't do that right before you make this project. So I'm gonna speed this up. I'm gonna trim all of my paint sticks down to size, and then we're gonna get staining. And then you can just throw these ends away or save them for another craft project if you like. Okay, so now I've protected my work surface with some paper towels, and now I'm going to stain my craft sticks. You could use paint, you can use any color wood stain you like. I'm gonna use Folk Art Home Decor Wood Tint in Walnut, which is kind of like a darker tint. And then I'm just gonna very quickly just take my brush. I like this because it's not oil-based, so it washes up nicely and I can use it inside. I'm just gonna nicely coat all of my wooden craft sticks before I glue them together. So you notice I cup them and then I stain them, because if you have any dents or shards that come off, well, you cut them, you don't want that to disrupt the stain. And then after the stain completely dries, or paint, whatever you're using, then you go ahead and glue everything together. Now these are the short pieces on the end are the two horizontal pieces. So I'm being very careful to stain all the short edges as well, because those will be exposed. If you don't want to go through all this hassle, I would probably do like a dry brush technique with paint, because then you can leave the ends unfinished and it won't look quite so funky. But for the vertical pieces, so these are the two horizontal pieces. These are my 8 vertical pieces. So on these end pieces, of course, I'm going to have to stain this short edge. But on all these middle pieces, I'm just going to have to stain the top edge, and I can leave these long edges unfinished because they're all going to get glued together. So I'm going to speed this up for you and come back once all of my wood stain has dried. Now that my wood stain has dried, I'm just gonna push my 8 wooden sticks together and kind of line them up as best as I can. Doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but we're going to try our best. There we go. That looks pretty good. And then we're going to lay these two horizontally across. Just kind of eyeball, trying to make sure that you have the same distance up top as you do at the bottom. And then I'm just going to pull up my Gorilla Wood Glue and a paintbrush, and I'm just going to paint wood glue onto the back of, oops, get on the side, these horizontal paint sticks. Okay, and then just press that in place. And then I'm going to repeat the process on the second one. And then while your wood glue is drying, you want to put like a heavy object just to keep these flat. And so on one of these, I actually used a stack of books, and that worked out just fine. On this one, I'm going to use a couple of paper bricks, and then I'm going to let this sit for a few hours and then come back and I will show you how to add photos to your little frame. Oh, and I totally forgot to do this while I was staining my wooden paint stick, so I'm gonna do this right now. I'm gonna stain my little clothespin here. So I'm just gonna stain the front and the side surfaces. I'm not gonna do it perfectly, but good enough. I did another frame like this where I did like kind of like a whitewash with paint, and because I left some of that unfinished wood poking through, I didn't feel the need to paint the clothespin because I didn't think it would matter, and it kind of like the unfinished wood of the clothespin looked similar enough to the unfinished wood poking through the paint, so I left it. But if you're staining, I mean, there's nooks and crannies, so it's kind of tricky. You're gonna get stain on your fingers, but do your best, and then set that aside to dry, and then we can glue that onto the frame. Okay, and then the final thing that I'm going to do here is attach my little mini clothespin to my frame, and depending on what size and orientation of picture you want to use, it's going to kind of impact how you position the clothespin. So if it's like a 4x6, I would probably put the clothespin underneath this little crossbar. Or if it's a portrait 4x6, you know, I would put it like right there. But on this one, I'm going to do a 5x7, which I think is like more like to scale. Like I would probably do a 5x7 anyway. And so for that, it's going to go on this crossbar and just centered, and then I can add the photo later. So what I do to kind of save time is I put glue, wood glue, on both ends of the mini clothespin. So there's like dabs of wood glue on either end, and then I'm just going to put a dab of hot glue in the middle so that it secures in place right away. You don't have to do this. You could just do wood glue and wait for it to dry. But I like to cover all my bases, and then just pop that on there, center it, and then let that dry, and then you can just very gently slide your picture in there, and you're good to go. So that's it. Okay, so here are my two finished picture frames. Like I said, the other one I painted with a very dry brush technique, so there's still some wood grain showing through. Now when it comes to hanging these picture frames, you've got a couple options. The first obvious one is using little sawtooth hangers that you can get in the picture framing aisle, like with the hardware at your hardware store. I think that's probably a little unnecessary and a little bit more complicated than it needs to be, because these picture frames are so lightweight. I think you could easily just hang these up with like some Velcro command strips, and that's probably your easiest bet. Super simple, super easy. But I'm super excited about these little picture frames, and I think I'm going to make more with different paint colors or different stains. I do hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Until next time, happy making!